we have to talk about James Gunn, the DCU, and Peacemaker season 2 finally. We are months separated from it, so now it's time to give it a look and let's talk about the possible future. As you guys know, James Gunn was supposed to be the golden ticket for the new DCU. The man who would fix the Zack Snyder problems and bring comedy and chaos together and finally give us DC fans something to get behind. But after Peacemaker Season 2, Creature Commandos, the noise from the Superman film, which I loved, I have to ask, has the gun jammed? So let's jump into this. Right now, Warner Brothers Discovery, the parent company to the DC studios, is up for sale. Now, the rumor mill is rumoring, so who's going to buy it, when it's going to be bought, we do not know, but it is officially up for sale. And what does this mean for DC studios? I know there are some thoughts out there that, like, because of Superman's success, and again, Superman's success is like divided. It didn't make too much, so, like, it really depends on which side of the fence you are. You can make an argument for its success, and you can make an argument for its flop. I don't think the movie did so well to prevent whomever buys Warner Brothers to either want to do a regime change or not focus on DC IPs at all because of how damaging the IP is. So time will only tell, and we shall see. Now, James Gunn and Peter Safran were appointed leads of DC Studios in 2022. I believe their contract is up in 2026. Again, whomever buys Warner Brothers, assuming they are bought, is up to renegotiate or decide if they want a regime change, or like, the other thing I don't think people are considering is depending on who is owning the company and whatever their ideology, be it social, emotional, political, they then can decide to, like, pivot the direction of Gunn's writing, or whomever they are, or whomever they put in charge of writing the future projects. So that's another thing to consider. James and Peter were supposed to be the new visionaries out to unify DC's catalog and make it more like the MCU. However, the DCU still mirrors the previous DCEU of the Snyderverse. It's actually mirroring the chaos that engulfed that universe, and it's got us where we are now. It's kind of like Groundhog's Day because all this stuff keeps repeating and putting us in this dangerous chaos that DC's been in for the past decades. We get these constant restarts without leadership or identity. Now, it's kind of hard to say where the future of DC is going and what DC is now, because I get it. Hindsight is 2020. And if we separate James from the Guardians of the Galaxy and the DC project that he's put out, outside of this, he's only ever directed two films, like, of his own that he's written and directed. So I get it. There's going to be growing pains. But the real issue here is too many promises and too much hype. James Gunn told us with the release of Creature Commandos, Peacemaker, and Superman that we would know where we stand canonically and the story moving forward. Who is staying and who is gone. The only thing is, we left with more questions. I want to focus on Peacemaker season 2 right here and talk about having good ideas that are just not flushed out. And Peacemaker season 2 really suffers from that. And so let's talk about it. And what I want to talk about first is Harcourt and Chris, Peacemaker's character arcs in their relationship. Listen, as a whole, fundamentally, Peacemaker should not be, like, looking forward to a romantic relationship with Harcourt. Like, it's really off, and it doesn't make sense for either of these characters. Peacemaker's redemption should come from his team forgiving him and recognizing, like, hey, you did these terrible things, but your redemption could be doing really cool, good things, which is a path that we're on. Anything outside of that comes off really odd. And James Gunn makes really strange, odd decisions, and we're going to get into that when we get there, but I want to focus on this. We learn in Peacemaker season 2 that not only was Rick Flag Jr. Harcourt's one of her best friends, but also her lover. If it wasn't for Moon, Rick Flag Jr. would seek out a relationship with Harcourt. He's got to keep up this facade in order to keep the world from being destroyed by Enchantress. Chris essentially killed her best friend and her lover and somebody she was hoping to somehow build a relationship with. Harcourt's also seeking approval from Rick Flag Sr. Their character arc could be, yes, I forgive you for killing Rick Flag Jr., but we are not going to date. That's weird, especially coming from Chris. Like, Chris knows he's done these terrible things. The last thing on his mind should be, oh, let me make a lover out of this woman. Like, it's weird. Like, I want to date her. I want to be with her. That it's such a weird thing, a choice for that character because it just continues. Okay, now that when I say it out loud, unless the lesson James Gunn is trying to teach us or tell us is that Chris is not redeemable. Awesome. Let's make that choice. If that's the lesson, he's beyond redemption. Like, we cannot save this character. This is what a horrible person looks like. They will continue to make horrible choices. Then yes, I can see him trying to manipulate, because that's what he's doing, this broken woman into a relationship, a sexual relationship at that. Like, it's so it comes off super weird. But like, yeah, those are this is one of those weird decisions that James Gunn makes, that I feel like I'm one of the few people who see, like, I'm the like, why are we doing this? Like, why isn't his team saying like, "Hey, we forgive you. Now let's do better." Good enough for Chris. Like, he's got to try to do this weird thing. Like, it's something I don't buy. Now we have to talk about Rick Flag Sr. And everything up to this point has been set in stone. Like, we know the character, right? He works with metahumans. He's worked with the queen of manipulation. Like, and he's a seasoned warrior. So there's a lot of things that he should know, or at least be aware that's going on. So the choices that he makes in Peacemaker is super weird and out of character. Now, unless we are buying the theory that Rick Flag Sr. isn't Rick Flag Sr. and that he's being played by Clayface, maybe this works. Maybe this works. But somebody who has gone through what Rick Flag Sr. has gone through, somebody who sits next to one of the best manipulators of the DC universe, should not be fooled so easily by grief. And I hear you barking. I hear you. Like, it was his son. It was his son. Yes, I understand all of that. However, this is something that Rick Flag Sr. is seasoned with. Like, I'm not saying that he would not be grief filled, but I'm saying like he would have more of a stoic control over it. He would feel these, but he would not be doing what Rick Flag Sr. is doing within Peacemaker season 2. I'm talking about doing the lines and all this questionable stuff. It just doesn't make sense. Turning against the metahumans, where like it seems like him and the bride have such a cool relationship. Like, I don't see him, like, it's just a weird choice. Weird choice. Another big one are both Earth 2 Auggie and Keith. Earth 2 Auggie not being racist and saying that Earth Prime, which I'm going to go by, right? The world that we're actually in, Auggie he saw him as like a twisted version of himself, is one hell of a lore bomb. Like, that's something we've got to talk about. Auggie has raised two sons in this world, and Keith is like, "What?" Like, he's like, wait a minute. You haven't been racist this whole time? Like, that's something to explore. Instead, he is, killed off, and we're never going to talk about this again. And then we leave Keith there, who now has to deal with like his brother's dead. A fake brother came. His dad really was a racist, so everything he believes is like super wonky. Like, what's going to happen to him? Like, we just don't know. It's just left. And again, I should say it again. We were told Peacemaker season 2 all would be explained, but we are just left with more confusion. And we're going to talk about that confusion as we move on. But yeah, these choices are just weird. They're not bad ideas. They're good ideas without any time to breathe. This universe is being built faster than the storytelling can support. And now I want to talk about John Cena. Now, I do know in series you have the sidekick story episodes, and I'm not saying we did not need any of that. What I'm saying is this season felt super sidekick friendly. Like, it was more about them than it was about Peacemaker, which made the decisions for Peacemaker going after Harcourt, because there was no time to explore all that. And then there was another reason why, but again, we'll touch on that as we move through the video. Because of that, it just didn't feel earned. It didn't make any sense. It fell apart. And John Cena is John Cena can do a lot of things. I personally feel body wise, from the way my man is walking, when you catch him, when you see videos of him in an outside left, his time is precious. The way his body is looking, and he's kind of got to walk at an angle before he can sit straight up. He's got to warm that body up because of the years of giving fans what they want in WWE. That being said, this is precious time. Let's use him. Like, let's really use him. Like, we could do the sidekick episodes all day, but like this season just felt like mush. It wasn't what we needed from Chris's portrayal or or John Cena's portrayal of Chris. If they wanted to get over what they were trying to get over, we needed more time with him. Now we move to the bigger issue. Let's be real. The DCU was never actually rebooted. James Gunn said that the new DCU is kind of like the comics. Some things will stay and some things will go. But that middle ground does not work for cinema, at least the way he's doing it. It is the worst possible strategy you could have, especially, again, with the rumor mill, what's happening with Zack Snyder and Netflix, then just that fandom alone still very much exists. By not truly just doing a full reboot, it gives false hope. Snyder fans think that there's hope that the Snyderverse will return because as of right now, 90%, and I will say this again, 90% of the DCU is still Zack Snyder's world. As a matter of fact, all characters right now are Snyder characters. Like, and that's because they pop up and they're introduced through Snyder World movies. Blue Beetle and Black Adam are both Snyder verse movies. Shazam 1 and 2 are Snyderverse movies. So any character that pops up in there is now a Snyder character. It's pretty much Snyderverse Lite. And I think it adds to confusion because new fans don't know where to start. Where you if you say like, oh, you start with Peacemaker, Creature Commandos, and Superman, but all these characters show up in whatever Snyderverse did, but playing the same exact characters by the same exact actors, there causes confusion. The tone kind of feels lighter, but not really. So you still got that Snyder tone in there. It's Snyderverse Life without either side feeling satisfied. And it's gotten to the point where the rumor mill does what rumor mill does, and like it's all this, I hear all this new speculation of the Snyderverse possibly returning. And I'm gonna say this, and it might hurt, but originality takes bravery. And like it or hate it, the Snyderverse was Snyder's, it was bravery. He did his own original vision. It takes bravery. Uh Building off somebody's other thing, it's just I don't know. When your only contribution to a universe is unfleshed out story beats and questionable sex acts, we'll touch on that. And every other film that works in your universe is adjacent to your universe, Batman, you have a problem. Like I said, as of right now, 90% of James Gunn's DCU is the Snyderverse, which brings us to one of the biggest problems, the Leto problem. Listen, the jabs at Jared Leto, whether or not they are deserving, it seems really petty. When you're building a universe, you don't need to waste time to punch down on Jared Leto, especially with a one-sided beef. Because as far as I know, Jared Leto has yet to acknowledge these things in the films or TV shows that James Gunn does. But it comes off very pot and kettle, especially when one person only has to do is make a Google search. You yourself, James, have a peppered past, a very peppered past, with oddly themed parties, your relationship with Jimmy Urine, and a relationship that you have not denounced. You put him in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It got super weird. So, those of you who don't know, Jimmy Urine was accused of grooming a minor. His band, Mindless Self Indulgence, sold a bunch of T-shirts with the minor victim on there. They took this victim took him to court. We don't know what the outcome was because those are filed, but he left the country. He's now in New Zealand after all this alleged stuff happened. And James Gunn is really good friends. They again had questionable parties. They're still very much friends. At he was put in Guardians 2, which is super weird. It's got to the point that when Guardians of the Pedophiles popped up, they used the James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy, which listen, I don't think was a mistake. I don't think it was happenstance. I think whoever chose to do that um, purposely did that for obvious reasons as we're talking, and it was to the point that when that when I first heard that, I was like, "Oh man, James Gunn is at it again. Like somebody has popped this up again." But no, it was for political reasons. But again, they chose that for a reason. Choosing to punch down on Leto, whether or not he deserves it, again, when your things again, your tweets and everything are, again, you have a pepper pass. You have a pepper pass. It's a waste of time. Those minutes or hours you took to write that should have been focused on making things make sense or give us that true timeline and that canon that you promised in Peacemaker season 2, rather than like wasting time on Leto. It just didn't make sense, especially since it's the only thing that's ever worked. I won't say the only thing. I said the only thing, but it's one of the things that has worked in the Snyderverse and did not work when you tried to move on from him. Like it or not, David Ayer, this is for you. I don't know why you apologize for Jared Leto's Joker. It was the best Joker. You don't need to apologize. I need you to walk that apology back. But let's get into it. Like it or not, David Ayer's Joker again is bravery. It's an original concept. It made another a pearl places like Spirit Halloween. Like it works. It's one of the highest selling things on social media alone. People were making like uh very wrong, but people were making like romanticized edits of Harley Quinn and Joker. And whenever they took Jared Leto's Joker out of a project and tried to distance Harley from that Joker, it's not worked. The Harley Quinn movie failed. Nobody liked the rebranded Harley in the Suicide Squad. It just doesn't work. He is the working piece to the Suicide Squad. He is the working piece to that Harley. And I think this is why Margot Robbie really just left and is over there Barbie. Whether or not she comes back, I don't know. But it's not going to work without Jared Leto. I say all this to say, like, if you continue to like punch down on this guy, like the one thing that's going to work or save the future, if there is another revisit to the Suicide Squad, or if there's another revisit to Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, the one thing that's going to save it, especially since there's like this outcry for a Snyder or for an Ayer cut, is the good graces being in Jared Leto. Like you're going to have to eat a lot of crow. You're going to have to like apologize because for your sake, I hope if Warner Brothers does sell, I hope it's not to somebody who is actually a fan of the first Suicide Squad. Because if that happens, like they're going to be like, so yeah, we want Jared Leto back, and we want the Joker back, and then you're going to have to then say goodbye because you don't want to swallow your pride. You're going to have to apologize. Like it just, I don't know why you would go out of, there's again, so much things you should have been focused on rather than this, but that's my piece on there. And so this leads me back to talk about so with everything I've listed, this is another thing that I wanted to talk about. The possibility of Robert Patterson's Batman being in uh James Gunn's universe, and it's obvious. It's an obvious no. The way things are set up, like everybody's terrible and stupid. There's no thought within this team. Like everybody's terrible and dumb. There's nobody smart. Patterson's Batman not only could not physically survive in this fantastical world, but also he's too smart to live in this world. Like he would have figured out everything. Like because Rick Flex Senior's easy manipulation, like it just leads me to believe that what we've seen of Matt Reeves' Batman, that like yeah, it just wouldn't have happened. Like he would be too smart for Lex, which is again, this is something we don't want to establish, and it just does not work. Um, it would not work. He would figure it all out. The Peacemaker season 2 would be like one episode. It's just silliness. He just could not work in what James Gunn is planning. So that's the other thing I want to touch on. It's not going to happen. It just would not make sense unless they turn around the vibe again in the Lantern series, which again has Guy Gordon in it. At least James's Guy Gordon. I don't think it would not work. The Matt Reeves Batman is not going to work in this universe. They're going to definitely go more kid friendly. Or even the bold Batman for James Gunn's universe. It's just not gonna work out. We just finished talking about Jared Leto, but what we also got to remember is Frankenstein and the Bride. I again questionable decisions. This person's a toddler when they're created. There's a father-daughter relationship there. Why they are hooking up is beyond me. Decisions? I don't know. I don't know. I do not know. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the DC studios right now and the other projects that have come out. I do hope that we're able to course correct. Of course, I want DC to survive. I just think whenever we let somebody have 100% of something without um, a board to question them, there's a reason why Kevin Feige is just the head of Marvel Studios. He's not the writer, he's not the director, right? Because being a head of a studios is a lot of work. And when you're James Gunn, who's the head of a studio, but you're also the writer and director, and at times like player, it's going to something things are going to slip. And a lot of the things that I've mentioned are probably the things that have started to slip. But hopefully we can see what we're doing now and yeah, fix it. I know if this video comes off overly critical, again, I'm just a huge fan of both cinema and comics, the two C's, and I want things to work. I want them to be successful, and these are just my criticisms. So share them if you have time. Again, thanks for stopping by, and as usual, guys, stay excellent.